Ghulam Nabi Azad is saying, if people are so happy as the BJP government claims, why are there still restrictions in the valley?
No, I think not much of seriousness needs to be or deserves to be attached to what is being said by some of these Congress leaders. Let's not forget, I mean, I hate to make any personal comments, but it was Mr. Ghulam Nabi Azad in 2008 when the Amarnath land row agitation happened, and he had actually to quit as Chief Minister.
Yes.
In the wake of that, because there was a prolonged spell of curfew, they were virtually shut down in the entire state, and that is how he could not complete his term as the Chief Minister. Later on, in 2010, when it was a Congress-supported government headed by Omar Abdullah, there were more than 100 killings, nearly 150 killings that happened. And therefore, I have no hesitation to reiterate time and again that this is one of the most peaceful festive season which we have witnessed in Kashmir. And that too, Eid and Independence Day happening very close to each other. As far as the spells of curfew are concerned, let the Congress leaders and the Kashmir-centric politicians not forget that there have been longer spells of curfew in the past. Let's take out the records of the last 30 years.
Okay.
There have been curfew for weeks together, and some of these Congress-supported or Congress alliance governments came to be known as curfew governments.
But
and there have been bloodshed, violence. This is for the first time. There has not been a single incident of violence, but sometimes one tends to believe that the Congress and its allies are rattled because of the success achieved by the Modi government, and they in the heart of heart, I hate to believe, would wish that there should be some violent incidents so that they could carry forward their agenda of disruption.
that's a very serious allegation that you're making as a minister in the Prime Minister's office, Dr. Jitendra Singh. You are saying that some of these elements could want violence so that they can do politics on that violence. That's a very grave charge.
I, without hesitation, and even at the risk of sounding unorthodox, I've been saying this for quite a few months, that I have come to a conclusion that these are some of the political parties and the dynasties which have thrived, survived, flourished in an atmosphere of mayhem, disruption, violence. And it's become a vested interest for them because they tend to project to the rest of the world that, look here, it is only we who can take charge of the political responsibilities in Jammu and Kashmir. We are the only political option available. They don't wish the atmosphere to open up.
When you say the atmosphere, you want that atmosphere to open up. Schools reopened in the valley, but hardly any parent, send their children. Such is the atmosphere of fear in the valley. Apprehension, ki kuch bhi ho sakta hai. Something could go wrong. Plus, friends across the border, across the line of control, they are dying to disrupt peace in the valley.
No, without contradicting what you are saying, Gaurav, I agree with you. As far as the schools in the Jammu region are concerned, it was a normal activity, of course, in Kashmir Valley, but let's not forget a parent's concern. Even if you and I have to send a child to the school, we would, try to make ourselves doubly sure before we do so. And I think after what they have learned from their past experience and the cumulative experience the last 2-3 decades, I would not grudge the parents' concern and apprehension, but I'm sure, let a day or two pass, with the parents getting reassured and seeing for themselves that, okay, it's safe to send a child, they would not hesitate doing so. It's just a matter of time, and of course I agree with you, there's a wheel of fear, and this wheel of fear is compatible with the politics of these 2-3 dynasties and the Kashmir-centric unit of the Congress party as well.
So, what is your biggest apprehension or your biggest fear at this point of time? Because, a lot of hard work was put in. The first Friday prayers went off peacefully, Eid prayers passed off peacefully, and Independence Day passed off without an untoward incident. At least that is what we've been told so far.
No, shall I tell you frankly what's my biggest fear? My biggest fear is from these busybodies who are trying to, float all kinds of rumors. And unabashedly, I don't know how they have the cheek to make such kind of statements, even on the TV channels, saying that this happened, that happened, so many killed, so many.
Busybodies mane kya? Who are
part of this Tukde gang who enjoy the tactic sport of a section of an influential section of Congress, and of course the Kashmir-centric political parties, because I said their politics thrives on disruption, on anarchy, and they may be the ones who would be wishing that there should be some incidents of violence happening so that they can settle a score with the Modi government.
Sir, but as a minister in the Modi government and a minister in the Prime Minister's office, you are saying that there is a Tukde gang, and this Tukde gang is trying to disrupt peace in the Kashmir Valley. How? For example, how are these elements
See,
doing it?
there has been rumor mongering over the last 2-3 days, which is very evident, which has been reported even in the respectable channels like yours, and the government has taken cognizance of this. Only a short while from now, a press briefing was done by the Home Secretary of the state to dispel all kinds of rumors, and time and again the government is trying to reach out to the people, but still they are trying to, you know, make the best use of the kind of atmosphere happening.
So this is Pakistan that is indulging in rumor
See,
mongering.
there is both. There have been evidences in the past where Pakistan was putting up fake news, fake videos, fake information being floated. But I think what Pakistan is doing is known to everyone. And right from 1947, Pakistan did not reconcile to the Jammu and Kashmir being a part of India. They've been up to mischief, and of course more so in the recent past. But what is more deplorable, and I think something which we have to guard against, is the Pakistan sympathizers living within India. And I don't know whether they are sympathizers or they are beneficiaries of the Pakistan patronage happening. And they are the ones who always look forward to an opportunity to create a disruption, whether it's through rumor mongering, whether it's planting false news. But I think the silver lining now is
But
that
sir,
the third generation of Kashmiris and third generation of Indians now, third generation post-independence, I mean, to which many of these also belong, does not actually identify with their school of thought and does not actually get convinced by what they say.
No, but sir, in case there are elements across the border who are doing it, there are ways to counter it. In case there are elements within our country who are playing that dangerous game, what's the government doing about it? The government cannot complain. The government has to take steps.
No, I'm absolutely not complaining, but certainly the government is doing much better than what the erstwhile governments did. And that is why the testimony to that is the peaceful festival season that has happened, festive season with Eid and Independence Day happening close to each other. And as I said, and I reiterate with all the confidence in my command, this is one of the most peaceful festive seasons that we have in the last 30 years if we dig out the record. So it's not that we are complaining, but it's also the responsibility of the government and every right-thinking citizen, why only government, to make our citizenry aware of the moles within.
But what will you do to neutralize these moles within?
I think I'm not entitled, don't have the mandate to say all that in public domain. And I would not like to be speaking out of turn, but certainly the concerned agencies, the Ministry of Home Affairs, the state government is keeping itself abreast moment to moment, and they are taking appropriate measures. Had they not done so, things would not have gone off that smoothly and peacefully as they have happened.
Because some of the rumors, sir, are also about security forces and especially state, counter-terror mechanism not being trusted by the country. And to the best of my knowledge, that is not true. We depend very extensively on Jammu and Kashmir, administration and police to ensure that Pakistan does not succeed in our country.
I absolutely agree with you, and I think the security forces as well as the administration of the state deserve all appreciation for the manner in which the entire process has been gone through. And even see, some certain questions are being raised about the preventive detentions have been made and etc. But let's not forget, there have been more longer spells of preventive detentions made by the earlier Congress governments. And these house arrests are much comfortable than what were happening in their times. Sheikh Abdullah was arrested by the Congress government and sent to Kodaikanal. And Shama Prasad Mukherjee was arrested without producing any warrant or without even an FIR and lodged in miserable condition for 44 days where he breathed his last. So I don't think they have a reason to complain, but if the preventive detention is made, and that too with the assurance and the commitment that it is being done only till the atmosphere is slightly more compatible for them to carry on with their kind of activity which they do.
Okay.
I think that's there have been occasions in the past, let's not forget, there was a suspicious death happening of a National Conference worker at the official residence of the then Chief Minister. So much questionable has happened in the past.
So you're saying there's a lot of fear mongering that's happening. The adversary across the border, when, I'll come back to Pakistan, because while Pakistan has no role to play in Kashmir becoming an integral part of India, POJK, Pakistan has a role. Is your government now, as a conscious decision, going to expose Pakistan Army's atrocities in Pak-occupied Kashmir, Gilgit and Baltistan, and changing demographic profile there?
See, I'm not sure whether I can speak on behalf of the government in this regard, because there are accredited persons who do so, and I'm not dealing with those, because I'm not privy maybe to those kind of security inputs, and the Ministry of Home Affairs will take a call. But otherwise, we have now abundant evidence, both on media, on the domestic media, even in the international media, of the kind of atrocities being committed in Balochistan, being committed in Sindh, being committed in POJK, and Gilgistan. It's hardly describable the extent to which they have gone. All the democratic rights of the Gilgit Assembly have been taken over by the Islamabad government, and they have been deprived of even the basic facilities of education and health. And that is why now, and we have abundant evidence in the form of videos coming almost every third day, where people have come out in protest for against this oppression which is being unleashed on them, both in Gilgit, in Balochistan, and other parts of Pakistan.
In Waziristan, they have stopped all outsiders from going there. So you're going to expose that.
And the kind of minorities, the approach towards the minorities that is, being practiced by the powers that be in Islamabad, and the population of minorities has reduced to just single digit now.
So is that the Narendra Modi government strategy, that instead of India being on the defensive on Kashmir, India is actually on the offensive, exposing Pakistan on Kashmir?
Personally speaking, I tell you, Gaurav, I don't know why so far the erstwhile UPA governments and the common governments, Congress governments, were defensive, and why they followed this policy of 2 steps forward, 1 step backward. For example, even in the domestic front in Kashmir, they would always speak of holding talks or trying to woo the stakeholders, and when they spoke of stakeholders, they just had 2-3 names in their mind.
Sayyid Ali Shah Gilani, the separatists, is that what you mean?
Separatists.
And your government will not talk to any
separatists, or maybe 1 or 2 mainstream leaders of those 2 dynastic parties, whereas the larger majority of the stakeholders belongs to the other section, the West Pakistan refugees, the POJK refugees, Jammu, Ladakh, and as far as my belief is concerned, I would rather say that each of the 130 crore citizens of India is a stakeholder, because Kashmir is a part of India. So just as we have a stake in Punjab or Tamil Nadu, we have a stake in Kashmir. So the Congress followed a policy of appeasing a smaller section, and that began from the infamous Nehruvian blunders. When it started with the appeasement of Sheikh Abdullah, then went on, and then he was brought back by the next generation of Congress party hierarchy, by Mrs. Gandhi, and then Rajiv Gandhi and Farooq, and this way, this continued, and these 2 parties, they managed to create an impression, though absolutely unsubstantiated, that they were the only option available, and they thrived in that. And there's a huge political interest which has developed around that perception. And this Tukde gang, which you were saying also, is some way linked, through their common interests.
But is there merit in those saying that it's the only Muslim majority state, and that Muslim majority has been marginalized by the Modi government, and this is majoritarianism, as some seem to allege?
No, I think the easiest rejoinder to that is, we have a Christian majority state in the form of Mizoram. We have a huge Christian in Meghalaya, because I deal with Northeast. Do we have Article 370 over there? So I think this is a very subjective kind of an explanation, which is meant to demolish or deny the credit of the abrogation of Article 370 to the Modi government. Now look at, these were exactly the persons and the voices which were earlier saying that if you touch 370, this would happen, that would happen, this would. But it has been accepted so smoothly, so peacefully by across the section.
But if it has been accepted peacefully across the section, again I'll come back to Ghulam Nabi Azad, he's leader of opposition in Rajya Sabha, sir. He says if it has been accepted, lift the curfew, lift restrictions, lift for restore 4 lines.
I'm glad you asked that. He's saying so because he's looking at the restrictions and the curfew through the prism of Article 370. Please remind him. And then you ask him, there was no, the Article 370 was in position. in 2008 when he was the Chief Minister? So why were the curfews being put? Not only in Kashmir, also in Jammu?
When the Amarnath Yatra agitation happened.
Why the entire state came to a standstill for almost 2 months? And there were cries of baby food not being available, not in Jammu but in Kashmir Valley. And why did he have to quit as Chief Minister? Then you ask the Congress-supported government of 2010, when there were nearly 130 killings. Article 370 was in place because they have no argument. They are trying to create a narrative with regard to restrictions and curfew through the prism of Article 370. Now let them leave the Article 370 aside. Article 370 was in place till 6th of August 2019.
Yes.
And before 2014, they were in power. Why were they imposing curfews? Why were they imposing restrictions?
So is there a
So
roadmap?
because in their subconscious mind, they are yet to reconcile to Article 370 having got abrogated, because that was a kind of a political narrative which helped them to thrive for decades together and perpetuate the dynasty rule from generation to generation.
So now you are saying Pakistan's influence will be marginalized in Jammu and Kashmir?
Absolutely.
The influence of this, as you put it, the Tukde gang will be marginalized, or if that threat remains even now?
To add to what you are saying, I agree with you. I think this is for the first time in several decades that there has been a decisive action by the Modi government, with an action which has clarity, which has candidates, which has conviction, which has consistency. And this both on the borders, within the borders. A part of my constituency, a large part of it is on the international border.
Yes.
And I would sometimes like you to accompany me. The people living there, in spite of, you know, sudden firing episodes happening, etc., etc., they wholeheartedly say that go back and tell Mr. Modi that this crusade has to continue. We are ready to bear with it, because for the first time in several decades we have seen a decisive retaliatory action happening against Pakistan, and more so after the Balakot and the other cross actions. Similarly, within the valley, the earlier governments were following a policy of 2 steps forward, 1 step backward. Now why this house arrest or preventive detention is pinching them? It is pinching them because they had made a mockery of the jurisprudence concept of house arrest. They would just place 2 policemen outside the house of a leader and then tell the media that so and so is under house arrest. But that the house arrest, by the definition of jurisprudence, means solitary isolation. You have to break the contact of the person from the rest of the society, so that he does not communicate. Of course, he is not treated as a criminal because he is a political prisoner. And they themselves practiced that in the case of Sheikh Abdullah, when they sent him to Kodaikanal for over a decade. That was Congress government, Nehru was Prime Minister. But of late, they were making a mockery of it. And now when a preventive detention happens, and let's also not forget, these preventive detentions had not happened only with respect to the Kashmir Valley leaders. They have happened even in Jammu. But again, as they have been obsessed with 2-3 names earlier also, they are again obsessed with the 2-3 names, which is bothering them.
But is there a roadmap, Dr. Jitendra Singh? I mean, you're a doctor, so a doctor has to diagnose whatever is the ailment and then suggest a cure and give medicine, and then say ki antibiotics kitne din leni hai.
See,
how long will these restrictions remain?
See, I'll tell you, as a doctor, and you rightly meant, the diagnosis has been done. The earlier clinicians or the earlier doctors who were treating this ailment either did not diagnose it, or it did not suit them to diagnose. Because sometimes the doctor feels that if this is the diagnosis, it does not fall in my domain of specialty, I'll have to refer him to another doctor. So he hesitates doing that. So they were just clinging on to that. Now the right doctor has taken over, diagnosis is in place, and the medication and the intervention is being done from time to time, and let's all be assured it will be carried forward to a logical conclusion.
And no time frame. I mean, restrictions, lifting.
I don't think
communication restrictions.
I don't think I'll be either entitled or it'll be right for me to spell out, or I'm privy to that, because the assessment is done moment to moment by the concerned agencies, and they take an appropriate view. But at the same time, a large quantity of restrictions already stand lifted in the Jammu region, particularly in Kashmir also gradually, like, you know, initiating the process of opening of these schools and partial lifting of restrictions. And as such, there is no curfew in place. Let me also put the record straight.
Okay.
It's not curfew imposed as such. It's just restriction on the movements. And that is why, that is because the as I said in the beginning, the people are rejoicing, and you said somebody countered that if they are rejoicing. These restrictions are being put so that they can live to rejoice. We do not want even a single individual to die before rejoicing the new arrangement.
Fair enough. Those who spread rumors, those who may spread rumors, and not the ones across the border but those within, what will the government do to deal with these elements? Because if it leads to loss of life, then that entire cycle of violence will start again, like in 2010, like in 2016.
No, I absolutely agree with you. I absolutely agree with you. And it is from that experience and from the acts of omission and commission of the earlier governments that the government under Prime Minister Modi, under Home Minister Amit Shah, has taken a decisive, a very firm and a stand with clarity, so that prevention is done, however harsh it may be, but damage is not allowed to happen.
Okay. Dr. Jitendra Singh, for the moment, many thanks for speaking to us here at
Gaurav.
India Today. Minister of State in the Prime Minister's office, Dr. Jitendra Singh, someone who comes from Jammu and Kashmir, is saying that the state, according to him, is very clearly on the road to recovery, and those who are trying to hamper that recovery, they will be dealt with according to the law.